Hey everybody, this is the Webmaster here. Just going live. Just want to talk about some Uber stuff. It's been a while. I haven't uploaded a video here, and mainly that's because I haven't really been using YouTube's live features. I had been recording things and then uploading them and all that sort of stuff. To heck with it. So we're gonna do this live. We're gonna pull a Bill O'Reilly and we'll do it live. Because with YouTube's algorithm, if I use the F word, it'll probably, you'll never see this, no matter if you get the bell notifications or what. But let's talk about Uber. As a driver, okay, um, I have done this for close to a year, actually over a year. I just hit the 1 year mark in May. No, I'm sorry, it's March. Hello. Sometimes, you work a lot, you forget what day it is, what month it is, whatever it is. Anyways, so been doing this over a year, and here's some of the things as an Uber driver I run into. And this is also advice for other Uber drivers. I know there's so many channels out there, but it can't be said enough. Number one, if you drive an Uber X car, which normally when they choose it, it'll say up to four riders, which is what my car can handle. It's five total, but seeing as I have to drive the car, that's one of your rider spots gone. So you have four spots, one passenger, three in the back. Sometimes people will just flat out tell you, hey, I've got five people. Communicate with them and say, hey, look, I'm an Uber X. I can't handle five people. So you'll need to order an Uber XL and cancel your current ride. No, they cannot ride in your trunk area. I drive an SUV, so my trunk area is open, but it is not meant to have another passenger seat in there. It's just meant for, a little bit of storage. I've got, and the thing is a lot of my storage is underneath. So, like, I use a backpack for work or extra coats, like for heavier weather, like unpreparedness for heavier weather. So I keep things like that. Protein bars, you never know when you'll need to stand things like that. WD-40, just all sorts of different things in my storage compartment area. That is not for people to sit down, lay down, cram into whatever. You need to have one seatbelt by law per person. Um, Normally, don't let them bribe you because normally the bribe isn't going to be worth it. You'll do all this and then they'll be like, "Oh, here's $5 extra," because you didn't get a ticket, and a ticket's probably worth a lot more than $5. It could be 120. It could be way more, depending on how many people's lives you're basically endangering by not having them in a seatbelt compared to just all willy nilly in the car. Sometimes you won't know how many people you're getting. Could be two, could be three, could be four, and sometimes you can just look and say, "Oh gosh, this is over four." So you got to prepare yourself with the spill. And they're like, sometimes they'll come up and you'll be like, "Well, how many do you have?" And they're gonna be like, "Well, I got five." No, and then you'd be like, "Well, I'm sorry, my car is an X. It only holds up to four. Anything over the four, you have to order an XL, because by law, one seatbelt per person. Four seatbelts, five people doesn't work. You get pulled over, you get the ticket, regardless. So one seatbelt per every passenger. They're gonna get mad. Let them. You know, Part of it's definitely safety. Um, if something happens, even if you get into an accident where it's not your fault, maybe somebody sideswipes you or whatever, and say you've got somebody in the back who's not buckled in. What happens if the rear glass breaks out and they go flying through your car, and then all of a sudden, they're dead or they've got severe injuries because of glass going into them or whatever. That's gonna be on you. So you and your insurance company, but mostly you. Um, just remember, it is your ride. Um, and this is merely advice. If you want to bypass any Uber advice, hey, you do that. But remember, you're taking the law and you're taking a lot of big risks. Secondly, minors, don't take them. Uber and Lyft policies both state on not only our side of the app as drivers, but it's the passenger side of the app that they have to be 18 years or older, or minors can ride with their parents, a parent or guardian. Um, and I really wouldn't consider a guardian like a friend. I would say, okay, you need to have a parent, aunt, uncle, something like that. If you do, if they, it's okay to ask, hey, how old are you? Don't be afraid, because the last thing you need is somebody's, parent calling Uber or calling you saying, where the blankety bleep blank is my child, and you're like, oh, well, he's next to me, and, whatever, riding in an Uber. Okay. So don't take him, no matter what. I had a situation the other night, and you all can condemn me, condone me, or whatever the case may be. Um, there was a couple. The girl was 18, the guy was 17, but he was like, "Oh, I turned 18 in 2 days." Well, the whole thing is I wouldn't consider your girlfriend at 18 your guardian. So I said, "I'm sorry. Look, that's just the way things are. I can't take you. All people who ride are supposed to be 18." I don't know. What would you do? I'm not taking the risk. Um, I really try. Um, Especially if it's one of those cases where, say me as a male, an older male, picks up a minor female, they can say anything in an attempt to get me terminated. They could say, he did X, Y, and Z. They can say anything. They can go home to their parents and say things, or say things to their friends, and whatever, and you get terminated, or you're under investigation for, could be a week, could be longer. Um, so just don't mess with minors. Don't don't even accept them. Don't pick up minors from schools. If you get requests from schools, my first thing of advice: call, because normally it's going to be, if you get a pickup at a school, normally it's the parent that's requesting the pickup for them. Okay, call them and say, hey, look, it is Uber or Lyft's or whoever's policy. We cannot take minors. They have to be accompanied by a parent or guardian, and please cancel the ride, and so on and so forth. Um, I've had a few cases where it's been parents who are just like, hey man, come on, it's my kid. I gotta, you know, I need you to take my kid, and it's like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm not gonna risk anything, especially my well-being, or whatever, because you want me to take your minor kid, to to your house, or to a parent's house, or to a relative's house, or to their girlfriend's house. No, sorry, not doing it. Um, and a lot of that's just, it's to protect our livelihood, and it's to protect our job, because you can get terminated for breaking any of the rules. As far as passengers go, okay, I understand this. Um, be courteous to your Uber drivers. I've been on the other side where you have an Uber driver who just seems like they don't care about their job. You can't. They've got a windshield that's like almost 3/4 of the way cracked. They've got they got their phone right here, because all drivers should have the phones mounted, magnetic mount, window mount of some sort, to where they're not looking down at their lap, at their hand, you know, by the gear shifter down here while they're trying to drive. Okay. Um, so, it's okay if you do say something about that. Do not make false claims of intoxication in an attempt to get a free ride, or any other sort of false claims. Because first off, that's somebody's livelihood. Sure, some people, it may not be their primary job. They might work a 9 to 5, and then do Uber kind of as a side gig to make extra money. But in that sense, you're taking money out of their pocket, because you're just like, oh well, let's make a little funny false claim, and they'll probably have their job back in 24 hours. Some claims it takes a little longer than 24 hours to investigate, especially if you make a more serious claim, or a serious claim, such as impaired driving or any other major any other major claim. So just keep that in mind. Communicate with your driver, and make sure your number is up to date. Make sure because whether it's an Uber delivery, whether it's an Uber pickup or drop off, if we can't find your house because you're in a neighborhood and all the porch lights are off, and typically, unless you've got those large numbers that sit outside, like out on the outside of the house, if they're on like an awning or something it's kind of small, especially unlit, we can't really see that. So make sure your number in your app is up to date. Also, when you have your name in the app, don't use nicknames or nonsensical names or one letter. We want to address you by your name, not by Lil Boozy or Cash Money or whatever moniker you go by. Just you know, be somewhat professional with it. Just use your name. If whatever. Because some drivers will opt not, especially if it's late at night and your name is not a real name, or it's a letter, or it's some weird nickname. They may opt to not pick you up. So for their safety, your safety, everybody's safety, use a real name, especially if it's your real name. Please use that. Um, let's see what else. Um, just be courteous to your courteous to your driver. If you don't like what they're playing, maybe say, hey, either speak up or typically the driver may ask, hey, is this, do you like rock music, or maybe you're a fan of, country music, or, they'll easily change it, but don't start pushing buttons and looking for your favorite channel on the stereo. That's really distracting. Don't automatically try to connect to their Bluetooth or plug in your phone to their adapters and all this other stuff. Just ask them, hey, do you have an adapter, or hey, do you have a way to plug this in? Um, just that way, so that maybe they can stop and change the channel for you at a red light or something, or if they have a steering wheel with everything, the radio station changer built in. Let them do that, but don't start reaching over for buttons and looking for things, or don't go rummaging through their armrests to see if they got good candy. Especially while you're driving. I typically keep my arm on the armrest so that nothing, people aren't digging through or whatever. Um, but you another thing is don't bring alcohol into the cars at all. Alcohol is banned in most areas. I think it was like Louisiana. Open alcohol is okay, but Uber's terms of service is going to override that. So no open containers in your Uber car, because people don't want to take a ride in Uber that smells like beer, whiskey, vodka, partial vomit and all that sort of stuff. So if you got an open container of liquor, alcohol, don't think you're gonna just you know do a booze cruise and have your little chug while you're driving. Typically the driver should ask to either have you chug it, dump it, or whatever beforehand, and do something with the cup, because the cup will obviously stink up the car and may still smell like whatever alcohol you were drinking. um, if you know you're gonna upchuck or whatever, typically the driver will have bags. Um, so just let them know, and they'll probably be like, "Hey, there's a plastic baggie, upchuck in there." Try not to just pull a pull a Linda Blair from The Exorcist and start and just decorating the back walls of that with your vomit and such. Do know that if you do get any sort of biological fluids in the car, ranging from urine, poo, vomit, obviously, blood. If you get a lot of blood for some reason in the car, because we do have to have that professionally cleaned out, and it does take us off the road when that happens. So just be wary of that. The range of prices, depending on it depends on what the fluids are, how much of it there was, etc. But especially when it comes to vomit, urine, things of that nature, we have to stop, get off the road. We have to get it cleaned up. And especially in the case of when you do it at a late night time when there's no car washes or things of that nature open. There might be like one or two, 24-hour car washes in town, but who's gonna go get a car wash at 6 or 4 in the morning or whatever. So we have to wait till the one, whichever one opens, and then we have to go spend the money to get the car internally cleaned inside and out. Um, so, and it's pretty expensive. Every time someone's puked in my car, it's been about $90 for them to. I mean, they take out all the mats, any sort of carpeting they can take out, any removable carpeting they take it out, to try and get all the odds and ends out, um, stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. If you're to a point where when we pick you up, you're already kind of out there barfing and everything else, and you don't really have any sort of protection, or you've got friends who are gonna just throw you in an Uber, we would not recommend that. Don't throw your friend in an Uber when they're that sick. You're gonna definitely need to either take them home or take them to a hospital or whatever if they're that sick. Um, you know, um, be a good friend. Have the courtesy to take them to the hospital, and then clean up your own car, or something, or have them barfing out your window or something. Um, but don't leave. The one thing I would highly not suggest is never leave a really drunk friend in an Uber and send them across town. I had that happen once, where I had a drunk passenger or a passenger, or a guy who sent his friend all the way across town. It was like a 20 or 30-minute drive to his parents' house, out in a really kind of ritzy neighborhood. And when I got there, he was out. I tried shaking him awake. I tried doing everything, and nothing was working. So I had to go at this address at it was 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was probably about 35 degrees outside. And I didn't really keep a coat on at the time because I was mostly in my car the whole night just driving. Um, so I had to ring these people's doorbell at almost 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning to get somebody to come out and get him out of my car. Um, so just be careful about that. Um, let's see here, what else? I feel like there's stuff I'm missing. Eating, it's sort of the same thing. Um, like some drivers will give you candy, water bottles, and stuff like that. Be respectful of it. Don't throw your gum wrapper or your used gum on the floor mats, because gum is really hard to get out of carpet. So like things like you know gum, um, any sort of just wrappers. Just behave yourself. Just enjoy the ride. Talk to the driver, but don't be obnoxious about it. Don't be a backseat driver while your driver's driving. Um, they have the GPS on in front of them, built into the Uber app. The one thing you've got to understand is that sometimes Uber drivers will turn off the sound on the GPS because they don't want to hear that all night. Especially if they work a lot and they work a lot of the same areas. They don't want to hear that all night long, so they'll turn the GPS off. But they can still see it. They see the GPS, but you just don't hear it. So, best idea, just let the Uber driver do their job. Um, Try to be as courteous to them as possible. If there's a problem, hey, it's too cold in here. Can you turn it down? Hey, it's too hot. Can you, turn it down? Whatever. Um, just be courteous. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I like it when people ask me questions. How long have you been doing Uber and stuff like that. Even though it's like one of the most common, two of the most common questions I get are, how long have you been doing it, and what's your craziest Uber driver story. And nothing's really been crazy, but again, out of over 1,000 rides, I've had two people puke in it to a point where it caused me to have Uber charge them a fee. Um, One was just like a guy who I picked up from a restaurant or a bar or something, and he was already sick. He was barfing into a 32-ounce foam cup, and so he was okay. As far as I know, the foam cup didn't overflow or whatever. But on his way out, he kind of wiped vomit on the inside on doors, so we had to charge him a fee to clean that up. And then the second one was, it was a girl who she even told her friend was like, "Hey, look, you puke in the car, you're done for, and you're gonna have to pay the $150 fee." And sure enough, you could hear her barf and stuff, and it's like, what else she have? Oh, just a bunch of uh, Bud Light limes. There wasn't anything, no hard liquor, just Bud Light limes. So I don't know. I guess she was a small framed woman, so um, maybe she just had too many. Maybe she wasn't of age to be drinking. I don't know. Um, but she was. She apparently had too many of them, and it was just not didn't settle with her. So um, that that was pretty bad. I have had another story where I thought I'd seen some people bringing some alcohol. I smelt it the whole way, and they asked for me to roll the windows down. And then once I got to their destination, like literally, there was some sort of alcoholic stuff smeared on the outside where I guess they decided to throw the alcohol out on the highway. I'm surprised nobody got hit or hurt by the cop or didn't swerve or whatever. But it was some sort of alcohol, and it left. I mean, left my windows and stuff all greasy on the outside. It was bad. It probably took several car washes just to get the greasiness out. So it was not pleasant at all. Overall, though, most of the riders have been really good. I've only had one false claim of impaired driving in over 1,000 rides. It's not something I'm proud of, and it was a pain in the butt. It was a Saturday night when somebody called me on impaired driving, and it was like my third ride of the night, and I guess it was the second ride who had claimed that I was impaired driving. So I had just gotten on my third ride, had accepted it, and then I got, like, when I just started on the way to pick up the passenger, or no, I'm sorry, not from picking him up. I was about midway because he had to stop at the gas station to make sure his car was still okay, and then he was going on to downtown. And wouldn't you know it, not even probably about 3 minutes into him visiting there, I got a notification from my Gmail that it was Uber writing saying that I was suspected of intoxicated driving. They didn't talk to me about it, but they just assumed automatically I was intoxicated. Now in the dark, maybe this looks like a beer can. I don't know, but this is what I do. This is what I drink when I'm on the road with this is full throttle. It is an energy drink. There's no alcohol in it. It's a lot of sugar, all that sort of junk. But there is no alcohol in full throttle. So once that happened, I had to write them and let them know that I don't do drugs. I don't do I don't do alcohol or any of that crap while I'm driving. If I do drink, I'm not behind the wheel. And I showed them. I even took a picture of this because hoping that maybe they mistook it for a beer or something. I don't know. And said I was intoxicated driving. Maybe it was just their attempt to get a free ride. I don't know, because some drivers may think that if you pull that, maybe it's just your way of trying to get a free ride because you had to pay $30 to get home or 40 or 50 to get home, and that was more than you intended on spending because you were in a surge zone or whatever. Not our problem. Please respect the drivers, and we don't control the prices. Um, it's the area that sort of controls the prices. So if you're trying to get home and say a major Friday night concert lets out at, say, 8 o'clock at night, but, and you're in the same area as that concert that let out, then yeah, you'll have to pay a surge because there's other people at the concert area waiting to get a ride home. That's just how it is. It's a it's a sort of it's an economic concept. It's like when you want a whole lot of something but you don't have it, there's a higher need, so you pay a little bit more for it. And then when there's too much of something, like a surplus, then prices are normal. So it just kind of it's a kind of a balances thing, and based on are there enough drivers to provide everybody a way home? If not, then usually the surge goes up to kind of counterbalance the lack of drivers. So those are just my thoughts on Ubering. Again, I've enjoyed it so far. It has its little rough patches, but I know when to call it quits every night. Um, when you're not really making money, you've been out on the road for 3 hours, and say you've made $15. That's $5 an hour, and maybe it's a weeknight. Maybe that's a sign you need to just head back home because honestly, you know if you had to buy anything, you're already down some. If you had to buy gas, you could basically have eliminated your $15 profit. Um, and you still got to count the wear and tear in those 3 hours on your tires and other parts, your gasoline you use, things like that, your oil. So these are again just thoughts and ramblings about my experience with Uber so far. Um, Maybe I'll do another video with my experiences with DoorDash today. Um, but that'll probably be definitely another day. But I just want to catch you all up on my Uber experience. It has its good times and its bad times. Part of doing Uber as a driver is just knowing, first off, when to do it. Sometimes it's a trial and error thing, Maybe last Monday you did real great going out from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then this week you come into it and you're like, ugh, I did like 3 rides and, should have didn't stop early enough. And, now I've only made $50 for the whole day. That's when you go, okay, I should have stopped a few hours early. Let's just go home and hit the bricks. Um, it's about, knowing what days are best. Typically, it's the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There might be occasional weekends where it's just awful. Easter weekend was absolutely awful around here. Both nights I did maybe $60 in rides. And it wasn't a bunch of long rides either. It was a bunch of short rides because I think the weather was a little cooler, so people weren't wanting to walk. Either the rainy or cool or something, but people just didn't want to walk. And there were a lot of short rides. So my apologies for yawning, but anyways, I think I've been rambling long enough. If you have any questions about my Uber experience or any questions about getting started with either Uber or DoorDash, let me know, and I'll answer your questions as soon as I can. Just like I said, just leave the comments down below, and I'll answer the questions as soon as I can. Just keep in mind if the questions are incredibly rude or vulgar or have nothing to do with this video, they will not be responded to, and they will not be displayed. So there you go. Again, this is the Webmaster talking about Ubering and stuff. So again, I'm out of here. Until next time, Webmaster out.